once a person retires, stay active. Whether you're going to volunteer somewhere, whether you're going to go to the gym every day, keep that social focus, because it's when we retreat and we take time not to be available to people is when I think our mind starts to decline. The invisible thread through all of this is your health. When you have your health, you have everything. And I just don't mean your physical health, but when you have your mental health. Because I have friends who are 85 years old. I have a donor who is 97 years old. She walks every day. She reads the Wall Street Journal, and she looks like she is 65. But she has her health, she has her mind, and she is out there making a difference every single day, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds, feeding ourselves with great things, good food, surrounding yourself with positive people makes all the difference. You don't need to be a traditional student to make a difference and to be able to transform people's lives, to be able to give them an opportunity to break down the barriers of their education to change the lives of their families is remarkable. We had a donor who was able to help a student in Bradford County become a law enforcement officer and change the trajectory of his family. He will be the first young man in his family that has not been incarcerated. Can you imagine how that changed that young man's life to be able to pay for his books, to be in this program, and then to go back to Bradford County to make sure the community is safe?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jenna Fasulo-Lapierre. I am the CEO and attorney here at the Miller Elder Law Firm. We are here today with Sherry Houston, Vice President of Advancement at Santa Fe College. For those of us that are meeting you for the first time today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, Jenna, first of all, it is an honor to be here, and thank you for even thinking that what I have to say is important to anyone out there. So once again, I am Sherry Houston, and my husband Joel and I moved to Gainesville 39 years ago. So I don't know if I'm a native, but I've certainly been in town and seen a whole lot of things happen. My career has been really eclectic to get me to where I am here at Santa Fe College as the Vice President for Advancement. I'm schooled as a city planner, so I'm used to interacting with lots of different people from all different walks of life. Now I started here in Florida at the Regional Planning Council, and I learned a lot about North Central Florida, and so it was an honor to work with so many different people. And then I went from there into education and working at St. Francis Catholic High School, which is what it was back then. Now it's St. Francis Academy, having the opportunity to touch the lives of students who came from not only Gainesville, but North Central Florida to receive high quality Catholic education. And after I explored all those options and helped people as much as I could there, I went to Meridian Behavioral Healthcare as the Senior Vice President for Advancement. And it really opened my eyes to how many people in our community are in need of so much different kinds of support. Mental health and substance abuse is not sexy. It isn't fun to talk about, but the need is so incredibly great. And so my team and I provided all the social media posts, and we talked to donors and raised awareness about something that people really want to brush under the carpet. And then from there, I went to Ronald McDonald House in North Central Florida. And it was so much fun. It was fun interacting with families who have a child struggling at UF Health Shands Children's Hospital, and to be able to help them on their journey to provide love, support, compassionate care was incredibly profound and rewarding. And we took a house that was 31 bedrooms, that had a very long wait list, and took it to a 50-bedroom guest suite home.
Wow.
And to raise that money and to work with the community, to engage them, to realize that families who come from all over the world need the support of the community here in Gainesville, Florida. And then once I finished doing all of that and knew I had something more in me, it's an honor to now be at Santa Fe College as the Vice President for Advancement. And my team and I raise all the money, whether it's scholarships for our students or program support for 8 different centers in Alachua and Bradford County.
That's an absolutely incredible, I want to say resume, but really career and years of service to the community. And I think when I was like learning about you and looking over your LinkedIn and your bio and your resume, I think the thing that took me the most was the fact that you've helped so many people and devoted your career to that. And it's people of all walks of life. So, those, as you said, with mental illness, with very sick children. And I think the intersection for us is the fact that we are also in the service of helping families in these difficult seasons of life, particularly those in the latter half of life, their final season, and trying to help support them so they can thrive to the finish line, essentially. So I think what I would love to get from you and talk to you about is, what are the different ways that you have learned to support families and individuals in those chronic or critical times? Let's open with that. Why do you think that supporting families when they're in these crises, because those are often helping support the families when you've got an individual in crisis, is where we find ourselves. So I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
It's always important to meet people where they are. And I think we know where people are,
Yeah.
but until we ask them, until we look them in the eye, hold their hand, and see what they need from us. It's amazing when you listen how much people will tell you. But you have to listen from a perspective of who they are, where they're going, and take our ego out of the picture and truly just be authentic. People can see through crap really, really fast. But when you come to a situation and you look someone in the eye and you see them as a human being, because isn't life all about just being seen and making someone feel special in that moment? And feeling special is from listening to hearing to offering opportunities, but in a non-judgmental way.
Do you have a situation that stuck with you throughout the course of your career, that where you've met somebody where they're at? I'm sure you do it every day, but
I did definitely at the Ronald McDonald House. We had a family who the grandmother was taking care of her grandson. Her husband had just passed, and the grandson was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And to help her grieve her husband's passing, but to be there for her while her grandson was in UF Health Shands Children's Hospital was incredibly powerful. To surround her with the love and support and those daily needs, which were, just something as simple as, helping to make sure her laundry was done, making sure that someone, when she came home at night, was able to sit down with her, have a cup of coffee, make sure that she had a meal, so the next morning she'd get up and start doing the same thing over and over again.
I think that's such a great example of supporting in almost like the smaller building blocks to enable that individual or that caregiver to be there for the people that really do, in fact, need them. When we talk about mental health and your time at Meridian, did you have any experiences specifically when it relates to older adults and some of the mental health struggles that they maybe have found themselves in? Like, are they alone? Has their mental health deteriorated? Has it shifted? Did they have these struggles lifelong, or is this something that they came into later in life? Because what we have seen here is that when we have individuals suffering from cognitive decline, they may have not necessarily had a huge long history with mental illness, but with cognitive decline, maybe absent a formal diagnosis entering the picture, that has seriously impacted their mental well-being. So I'm not sure if you were able to see that or experience that when you were at Meridian.
We did. And the nice thing about Meridian, it's a community mental health facility. So they were seeing individuals from moms who had babies who were under substance abuse all the way up to someone who is elderly. So to experience that continuum was pretty remarkable. I think elderly individuals are seen in a very, it's sad how people look down on them when they are truly the foundation of our community. And to be able to hear their stories, to really understand what is happening, cognitive decline is sad. And because people have done so much in their lives and so much in their careers, and then in the end, they revert back to almost being a child. And for people to disrespect individuals like that who have done incredible things, to me just really breaks my heart. And then to not have the medications and the love and support available because people are just too busy to go back and to be with their loved ones because they're doing so much in their life, it truly breaks my heart.
Is there, and I completely agree, and it's, other parts of the world or even in other cultures, we see, and have heard stories about really the elderly being on this pedestal of a community and going to them for wisdom and guidance. And unfortunately, I don't know that that is something that we see in our current everyday life. So that is absolutely challenging. The one thing, though, is there any sort of, in your experience, obviously, where there is a differentiation between the normal aging process and issues that come from that versus when it crosses the line into really a mental health issue? Because when they're coming to Meridian, how are they coming into the program or the facility?
Sometimes it's themselves bringing them to the program. Sometimes it's their loved one. And sometimes it's law enforcement that is Baker acting them and bringing them. It's a huge continuum. But you're right. When you're aging gracefully and there is a sense of pride and grace and humbleness when an individual is coming in through some type of diagnosis, so to speak, it is seen as individuals are lesser than they were before. And medication sometimes can help them, but it's the way and the stigma attached to those diagnoses that really defines who that individual is. And to me, that's just tragic.
When they come to, so obviously medication is one component. Are there any other supports that are offered to them through Meridian or any guidance when they leave? Because they're not there for an incredibly long amount of time.
No, there's always support groups, there's social workers, and there's groups that will help that individual continue their life in a productive way. Yes.
Is there, in your experience now, after you moved forward from Meridian and had these other career paths, how do we identify like crisis before it occurs and what sort of supports could be put in place? Because from my understanding, Meridian's a crisis center. So we've already gotten to the point where it's unmanageable for a variety of reasons, as you identified. And then they leave and hopefully have those supports to continue. But is there anything that can be identified before that crisis occurs to support somebody struggling, whether it's with cognitive decline or something else?
There's a program called Mental Health First Aid, and I don't know if you're aware of it.
No.
And Meridian provides that outreach, but also just today, I received an email at Santa Fe College that the college actually provides this training also, where you're able to assess an individual, meet them where they are, and then find them the help that they need. And I think a lot of times in our gut, we know something isn't right. But then because we're so busy, because there's so many things that are chattering in the background, we don't take the time to really see that individual. But if we really listen, we can hear that something just doesn't sound right. It just makes us pause. And taking that time to listen to that individual could make all the difference to them being successful and being a productive individual so they don't harm themselves or harm someone else.
Absolutely. And so basically you're a Gainesville native at this point. We're going to call over 30 years, nearly 40 years of time in Gainesville. Local communities and resources. So you've obviously just talked to us about one of them, but are there other things that people can look to or pull from when, and I'll make it even broader than just our aging population, just when there are families in crisis?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I think everyone belongs to some type of religious institution. So to have those faith-based people around you to assist you, we all have friends. And leaning on our friends during those times, sometimes we just need to ask for help. And there's sadness is that the stigma to ask for help is it's sad that people can ask for help without being judged. And whether it's your friends, whether it's a colleague at work, but to take that moment and to help the individual find the other resources out in the community for them.
Absolutely. If you look at the different factions of people, we've got children, middle-aged, elderly. I guess the question really ends up becoming, to me, it seems like our older aging population actually seems to have the least amount of support or resources. What's your perspective on that?
I would totally agree. There's a lot of things for children in this community. When you're middle aged, you're still upwardly in your career, and you're very social. And
Mhm.
when you become an older individual in our community, you aren't doing the things that you used to be doing. You're not at work any longer, so now you're staying home more, and you're
Mhm.
not going out and exercising as much, and you're just not interacting with people that you would normally interact with. And I think that's part of when a person retires, a lot of times within a year or so, an individual will pass very suddenly because they don't have that support system around them, a reason, a purpose
Mhm.
for getting up in the morning and making something happen.
As you've journeyed through and made all of these connections, tips, tricks, opportunities that you see aren't utilized or tapped in on by our like older people in the latter half of life that they should be looking at to get involved with?
I think once a person retires, stay active. Whether you're going to volunteer somewhere, whether you're going to go to the gym every day, keep that social focus, because it's when we retreat and we take time not to be available to people is when I think our mind starts to decline, and it's easy to stay home. I mean, isn't it nice when you wake up in the morning, you have your pajamas on, you don't put your makeup on, you don't do your hair, and you sit in front of the TV all day? And
Mhm.
I think a lot of our elderly population doesn't have a purpose to get out of their house, and no one is checking on them. And then they're not cooking for themselves. So for us to pay attention to our friends, to see where they are and to help them, just as simple as stopping by and giving someone some cookies, or sharing a story, or just being able to be a friend to someone who is older, who really just needs someone to listen to them.
And it's interesting because when we talk about the second half of life, or uh, thriving to the finish line, or any of these sorts of things, we're talking about an incredible range of ages, right? Like what you said is after retirement. Well, retirement could be 60, 65. It could be 70 or 75. And I also think that's important because what we have heard from the people sitting on our sofas day in and day out is that they understand, yes, use it or lose it. Keep the brain active, get out there, stay involved. But I also have heard that there is a delicate balance between not wanting to necessarily be on the Monday to Friday, you know, hamster wheel, so to speak, and enjoying retirement and enjoying the pause and enjoying not to have to push the gas, Monday to Friday, with actually also finding something stimulating and appropriate. And I do think that that middle part is a little bit of a struggle. So for those that are maybe in the 75, 80, we actually probably can say, volunteering some or having a looser schedule that can kind of work for that age and stage. But those may be in the, 60 to 70 age, they probably want a little bit more engagement. They want to have a little bit more of a schedule. So do you have any recommendations for finding that balance?
Well, let's take a step back. So retirement now, you're right, is not always just 65. I have friends that retired when they were 50. Like, why would you retire when you're 50? And they're very vibrant people. But they have a loved one, a spouse who they want now are traveling. They have saved for their retirement, so to speak. And so they have lots of options available. So when we think about retiring, is where are you on a socioeconomic status level on that continuum, that you're able to, one, travel and have friends and bring your friends into your house. And that looks very different whether you're 55 or you're 80.
Mhm.
But I think the invisible thread through all of this is your health. When you have your health, you have everything. And I just don't mean your physical health, but when you have your mental health. Because I have friends who are 85 years old. I have a donor who is 97 years old. She walks every day. She reads the Wall Street Journal, and she looks like she is 65. And she will probably way outlive me because she leads a much better life than me. But she has her health, she has her mind, and she is out there making a difference every single day. So I think taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds, feeding ourselves with great things, good food, surrounding yourself with positive people makes all the difference.
I think, in all of that, it's actually from where I'm sitting, kind of how you built your whole career. It's being part of and having that sense of community. Do you, for yourself, when you've done all of these different roles, is there one role that I know you enjoyed all of them, but one that particularly stands out for you and something that have still today think that was like, I'm so glad I'm part of that community, or I'm so thankful to have had that experience? I mean, I'm sure you can say that about a lot of things, but is there one that stands out for you?
Well, I'm a member of the Junior League of Gainesville, and
I think you were a former president.
I am the former president. That was a long time ago. But yes, I'm being surrounded by awesome women who lift themselves up. And the Junior League trains women to be civic leaders in our community. And what better way to do that than to surround yourself with people who are like you and better than you to keep you just going and bring you joy.
So funny enough, for my own self, so I'm originally from Canada, and my husband and I moved to Gainesville just about 12 years ago now. And so I had no community here. And one of the things that I did was actually join Junior League. And it was in Ocala because I was working in Ocala at the time. And I will say it did exactly that. It was a starting point or a stepping stone to build that sense of community. And obviously, I'm not necessarily looking at that from an aging perspective, but even just a sense of belonging and mental stability and having, the community to build your family with. And I will say also, it probably was not something that came natural to me. It actually felt a little bit uncomfortable. I had never joined an organization like Junior League before. So I kind of just had to keep pushing myself. Just go and just show up and participate. And I will say it became more natural. And to this day, I still have those friends that I started with 12 years ago. So I completely understand what you're saying. And I think that same thing can maybe be said to be true. I don't know. You can give me your perspective on this, but sometimes building that community requires you putting yourself out there a little bit and doing the thing that may initially seem not natural or uncomfortable. But in the end, it's like the little seeds that hopefully you're planting to flourish and thrive. And for our clients, hopefully they're doing that to have that community as they age. You've probably seen that in every aspect or every role that you have. Am I seeing that wrong? Or maybe that's just my experience, or what have you seen?
Well, yes, you're saying it all right. And so my first question to you is, so you joined the Junior League of Ocala.
Mhm.
And so when you moved to Gainesville, did you transfer your membership?
I did.
You did? Oh my gosh. That's so great. So what I love about the Junior League is the fact that there are young women, and then so there's single women, there's married women, there's women who have lost their spouse, and then you go all the way into being a sustainer in the league,
Yes.
where you can be that elderly person, so to speak, that mentor to younger individuals and to make a difference in their life. And that's what I've been so excited about being a sustainer, because I don't have to go to monthly meetings. I've done all that volunteerism, but to be the wind beneath someone else's wings, and I can give of my time the way I want to, not because it's directed because I need to spend so many hours in the at a meeting, or producing something, or serving a different community. So I love being a sustainer, and those sustainers meet together and we do lots of little activities together, have parties, but it's fun to be with people who are who are in that same time in their lives, and to share because we're not alone. What I'm experiencing as a woman, as a vice president now, is no different than anyone else in the community college system. So I think when we bring together our resources and we share what is going on, we feel less isolated, but also brings us joy.
Yes.
Like, you're making someone feel special. How important is that?
Absolutely. Do you think that, because I've seen it, But in your experience, your time with junior league, because you probably, how long were you? Well, you're a sustainer now. So how many
Mhm.
years have you been with the organization?
Oh, could it be 30?
Yeah.
Maybe 30 years.
So
Yes, a long time.
how have you found, if at all, that involvement has helped you in your respective roles through the years?
Incredibly important. In fact, I will tell you a very funny story. We're building out our team at at Santa Fe College Foundation, and I ran into a woman who I had been working with in the junior league, and I hired her as my scholarship specialist. So we've known each other for over 25 years, and now she's ready to leave. You know, her family has grown, and she's ready to come back into the workplace, and she is doing awesome things. But had not been the fact that the junior league brought us together and was the glue, I would have never been able to bring her into my team. So networking is incredible, and I think you're right. Sometimes you need to push yourself. I guess you can see I'm a pretty outgoing person, and I could talk all day. Just don't make me write something. But I love to talk. But for some individuals, getting out there and pushing themselves is really difficult. So I think it's part of the jobs of the extroverts in the world to kind of bring you closer to us. I love going into a room and not knowing anyone. My husband thinks it's so funny. Like I'll say, okay, my husband stays here, and he's a professor at the University of Florida, so he knows lots of people. In fact, most people know him more than they know me. He's taught most of Gainesville finance. But when I walk into a room and I don't know anyone, it is so thrilling to be able to meet people, to see where they are, to learn something about them. And at the end of the night, say, okay, I remember 75 of the people, and now I need to follow up with them and meet them for lunch, meet them for coffee, or have them over to my house for dinner. It is so exciting as an extrovert to do that.
That is amazing. The fact that like you obviously thrive on that kind of interaction, but then your ability to go into that room and to not know anybody and then walk away with trying to still build relationships off of those new interactions, that's like, that is how you thrive to the finish line, right? By keeping your community and continuing to build it. So I think sustainers within the context of junior league, what are you finding among that group of you that people are doing that's unique, and or just continuing to serve them and like feed what they're doing in this next season of life? What sort of things are they doing that you're talking about, that you're seeing, that is something that maybe our clients can put into practice?
So what sustainers nowadays are, so that the ages are so varied. I remember when I was first in the league, I always thought of people who are sustainers as being very old people. Now, I guess I'm one of the more senior people, but some of our members who've been in the league for a very long time are now taking kind of that hiatus and becoming a sustaining member, not having to do those daily requirements. But I think getting together and socializing, giving back to the community. We just finished Miracle on Main Street, where we're able to furnish bikes and toys for us, for just a wealth of families in our community. But to be able to give back and to change someone's life is so important.
And the purpose, I think,
Yes.
right? It's the reason to get out of bed every day.
Yes.
It's the reason to stay healthy and active and sharp and
Yes.
happy, right? You talked a little bit a couple minutes ago about the foundation at Santa
Mhm.
Fe. Tell me about that. What is the foundation? What are you doing with it? Tell us what's going on with that.
Well, I'm thrilled to be the first woman to sit in the seat as a vice president for advancement. Harvey was the first. He founded the foundation. And then Chuck Clemens has been in this role for 17 years. And I think you know that Chuck is now at the University of Florida. And so to have Chuck as my mentor, my husband Joel and I have been donors to the college for years. When I heard that Chuck was retiring, I thought, do I want to be the new Chuck Clemens? But I'm having so much fun being able to make a difference in the lives of our students. Our students are non-traditional students. And so we have students that are coming right out of college. We have students who are dual enrolled, all the way up to a student who is 80 years old who's getting her nursing degree. Once again, Jenna, it gives her purpose. And we have a multitude of programs that meet the needs of anyone in our community. So Santa Fe College serves Alachua and Bradford counties. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be kicking off a nursing program in Stark so that so students don't need to come to Gainesville to our nursing program. We have apprentice programs, whether you want to be a plumber, you want to be a contractor, HVAC, heating and air. You don't need to be a traditional student to make a difference and to be able to transform people's lives, to be able to give them an opportunity to break down the barriers of their education and to pay and provide scholarships for them to change the lives of their families is remarkable. So we have we have 8 different centers, including an online component. And our Kirkpatrick Center allows us to bring in people in law enforcement and train an individual to be a law enforcement officer. And just the other day, we had a donor who donated $1,500. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of money. It was that donor was able to help a student in Bradford County become a law enforcement officer and change the trajectory of his family. He will be the first young man in his family that has not been incarcerated. Can you imagine how that changed that young man's life to be able to pay for his books, to be in this program, and then to go back to Bradford County and to make sure the community is safe? There is nothing like that.
And funny enough, my husband is a prosecutor in Bradford County who works very closely with law enforcement out there.
Wow.
So talk about
Yes.
a full circle.
Yes.
So when you talk about the non-traditional student, you've gone everywhere from kids, young adults, all the way to an 80-year-old individual with nursing school. To you, what is a non-traditional student? How is that different than somebody enrolling at the University of Florida?
Once again, Santa Fe College has a great relationship with the University of Florida also, and many of our students do start at Santa Fe College, then transition over to the University of Florida. You don't need to be afraid of education. We at Santa Fe College, we are your community college. We want you to learn a trade, learn a skill, stay in this community, and make the community a better place for your family, and a better place for your family's family in the years to come. And Dr. Brody, who's the president of our college, thinks so strategically, and he's such a visionary as we see what the needs are in our workforce and to meet those needs. In fact, we are in the process of building out, you've been in Gainesville a while, so we have our Blunt campus, which is what I call in Midtown Gainesville. Down there is a building, it used to be the Malden Glass building. We are going to transform that building to be an automotive training center. So think about bringing someone in to learn how to repair a car, right? And then to make $100,000 to $160,000. I was just reading the Wall Street Journal the other day. I like newspapers. My husband actually gets it just for me, so I can sit at home and just read it. It comes a day late, and it's history, but that's okay. I'm still seeing its news. But Ford is paying $160,000 for individuals to look at transmissions and to fix transmissions. $160,000. So you don't need to be that book learning student. You learn a trade, and you can become such a successful individual. So that's what I call a non-traditional student.
That's amazing. And in terms of the foundation, where is the foundation actually spending dollars? Like, where are they investing? Like, I'm assuming the non-traditional student or the students of Santa Fe College are able to apply for scholarships through the foundation. How does that work?
So we have foundation scholarships, and we have scholarships through the college. And they can go to our website and apply for a myriad of probably 400 different kinds of scholarships that are going to break down the educational barriers for any student. And then that individual that I hired from the junior league is the person who awards those scholarships, which is really wonderful. And then we also have program enhancements. So we will have a donor who who wants to invest in our allied health program, maybe buy one of those huge cadaver tables for $75,000. So that's a program enhancement. We have individuals that want to help us build buildings and name buildings. And then we have donors who want to help our students who have an emergency situation. So we have a donor who has donated well over $15,000 to help people in our nursing program who just need to be the angel or the wind beneath their wings. Our nursing program has 40% of our people in the nursing program are actually male. I bet that you are very surprised by that. It used to be a very traditionally woman field. However, this particular donor, when she was a single mom of 3 children, and she remembers getting a flat tire and it didn't allow her to go to class that day. And so now when our program directors see that one of our nurses is having a hard time, whether she just needs to buy another set of tires for her car, or maybe she needs some help with daycare, we are able to help meet her on that journey and just take away a little bit of stress so that she's able to focus on completing her degree.
That's amazing. It's truly supporting people and actually meeting them where they're at, right?
Yes, exactly.
What about, is there any solution or offering for somebody who is retired that may just want, to pick up a course or a skill or something like that, but not, be there or a full-time student 5 days a week? Are there any options for that?
Oh, of course. We have a whole continuing education program.
Oh,
And there are lots of classes you can take, from wine tasting to cooking classes to learning how to use Excel. So there are lots of programs that you can take, and it isn't like you need to be in class every single day.
can they do some of those at the college, or are there any remote offerings, like to do it online if they wanted to?
There are remote offerings. There's some in our Northwest campus off of 83rd Street. There's some down at the Blunt Center. And there's some that are in Bradford County also.
See, I feel like that is something that really speaks to community and keeping your mind active and engaged, while also not having somebody feel like they're back in the grind of the work week or something like that. Because I do think when somebody has finished their career and they may not necessarily have family, close by, because we live in such a transient society at this point, but finding something that gets them out of the house where they can meet people, because meeting people is like half the battle. Where do I go to have any sort of engagement? And that really fits both needs. So remote offerings are nice, but if there's also the opportunity to come in to a campus or a building and, have somebody else to talk to, I feel like that's a very important thing to do, because I know that there are other offerings within our community where there's like small little lecture series that are perhaps offered at like an assisted living facility or something like that. And those are wonderful, but I think those are for a certain audience. And I do find that sometimes we can find a lot of things for those with the chronic illness. For example, like we've got Al's Place in Gainesville that we love and adore and treasure. But that's somebody who's well into a diagnosis or a challenge. Then we've got, before that, somebody attending these particular lecture series, which again, wonderful for a particular individual, but maybe not necessarily as hands-on or engaging. But I think the offerings from Santa Fe really are, before we get to, end stage or chronic illness or crisis planning. I think that's one of those pre-planning things that we can say, you can look at all of these offering, pick one, and maybe this will be help you with your sense of community and your purpose and your cognitive sharpness and all that good stuff. So that's wonderful. If somebody wanted to just dip their toe in, how would they do that to kind of look at what they might want to get involved with?
So we call this lifelong learning, and there's a whole catalog of different courses. It changes out every semester, and we also have a lot of those courses are actually held at the Blunt Center down in the Midtown area. So you can do that online, you can do it in person. Always looking for ways to meet the community and where and their journey. So if there's a course that we aren't providing, please tell us, because there's going to be someone who's thinking just the way you are also. Right now, cybersecurity is a really big thing. The scams, the phishing, and all of those kind of things, especially preying on older individuals. When you open up that email and you think it's coming from your granddaughter or grandson, or your grandson is asking you for money and you want to wire money and Venmo money, you're not sure it's going where it's supposed to be going. So we're working on a class for individuals who are a little older and as we call them, more seasoned, to teach them the tricks of the trade so they aren't scammed, and they aren't so afraid to use technology.
That is music to my ears because I think the problems that we end up solving are the scam has occurred and we're trying to step in and get an exploitation injunction in place and recover money or do civil theft demands or put in a guardianship in place. We are increasingly vulnerable as we age at baseline. But I also think as technology has just taken over, arming ourselves with a little bit of information and know-how and understanding of technology, maybe that is one pre-planning tool or one more thing in your arsenal to maybe prevent certain scams going forward. Because I think, at baseline, our human nature is when we don't know enough about something, it becomes scary and we don't know how to deal with it. And that's before any cognitive decline or aging process or chronic illness or anything. So I think knowledge is power. So Sherry, in your, again, vast experience within the community and all of the organizations, when we talk about impact, is there a story or an organization that sticks with you that you think was just an impactful thing and is important to share with our viewers?
Absolutely, Jenna. The program that comes to mind is a Displaced Homemakers program. And Joanne Wilkes and her team do such an awesome job of lifting up those individuals who have had some type of traumatic event that has truly just changed their life. And they need someone to bring them back on track. I have a donor who, she's retired now, and she moved here from Michigan, and she needed some purpose in her life. So I introduced her to Joanne, and now this donor once a week is going into the Displaced Homemakers program and lifting up those, and it happen to be women at this moment in time, who their lives have changed. The program serves people who are 35 years old all the way up to the age of 60 and 70, but to give them those skills, that hope, that kindness, that compassion that will allow them to succeed and put their life back on track, whether it was the passing of a spouse or an abusive situation. But our donor at Santa Fe College is able to share her story, and I think it helps those individuals in the program to know that they're not alone, and that everyone experiences something like this in their life, and they can get back on track and lead a very productive life.
Absolutely. The Displaced Homemakers program, has been a cornerstone organization in the community that, we have always advocated for. And there's wonderful people there that are looking for work. It's an untapped resource. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that one because I love that. I love what they stand for. And they have such wonderful people working for them and such a wonderful mission. As we kind of zoom out and we are talking about, again, impact. And we want to talk about what does our legacy, what is our purpose? What do you think from where you're sitting? What is the best way that somebody can leave a legacy, whether that's in our Gainesville community or broader, our state, our country? How does somebody best leave their legacy?
When I think of legacy, remember, I'm a fundraiser. I always think of ways that people can invest in organizations. So whether you're investing at Santa Fe College, another college, or another nonprofit wherever you live, but to take your resources and impact that organization in a very profound way. At Santa Fe College, you're able to establish an endowed scholarship for a gift of $50,000. Then in perpetuity, there's going to be a student that's going to be helped because of what you have designed. We have pass-through scholarships for as little as $1,500. You can change the life of one of our students in a myriad of programs, whether that's in the heating and air program, the plumbing program, the nursing program, or our general education program. And then to be able to make a gift that could build a building that could change the lives of our students and create a new program that we didn't even think of now that will serve our families and students in the future. So there's lots of ways to make that impact and to invest in organizations that are doing great things and to continue your legacy because of the gift that you've made.
That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And in terms of other things that people can tap or get into, maybe if they're not necessarily local to Gainesville, do you have any recommendations there?
Absolutely. I happen to be a Rotarian also. I think I like volunteering and being in leadership, maybe. But I'm also a Rotarian. And Rotary is an international organization that makes incredible things happen. And it's a weekly meeting. Once again, it gets you out there interacting with like-minded people that make a difference in the community that you live in. Here, we have the Wild Game Feast that is coming up in March. And I'm thrilled to share that the Santa Fe College Zoo is the beneficiary of the Wild Game Feast this year. And we're going to be building a treehouse at our zoo at the college. So it's going to transform the way people are able to see our animals, but also be able to interact with our zoo community.
Well, that's very exciting. Me and our children, we love going to the Santa Fe Zoo. It's wonderful. And so that sounds like something that we're absolutely going to need to check out as soon as you guys get that up and running. Now, I think what's also interesting is how our lives kind of intersected. You sit also on one of the many hats that you wear on the board or the advisory board at the Village of Gainesville, right?
I do. And it's wonderful to have a partnership between Santa Fe College and the Village of Gainesville to be able to bring our student athletes over to talk to the residents, to be able to bring good guest speakers over, and then to allow those individuals who are living right across the street from us to attend our sporting events, to attend performing arts, or to even take a class. And so it's been an honor to be able to be that glue that can make that happen.
What is the Village?
The Village is a retirement community, and it's there's individuals who are able to have single family homes all the way up into adult living facilities. You're able to eat together at night for fellowship. Food can be brought to your condo or your apartment or your house, but to have that camaraderie and to be able to do things as a community is so powerful, as we talked at the beginning of this podcast.
When we were looking for what can we offer our viewers and content and figuring out where we want to go with this podcast, I think you and Shannon had met at one of the advisory meetings at the Village, and that's sort of where this all spawned from. The Village is multidisciplinary. You're serving seniors or retirees, again, on various ends of the spectrum, independent living all the way up to more assistance required. And you're bringing in athletes and doing lectures and all that stuff. What I have always heard Shannon speak about is all the offerings at the Village and the supportive environment to provide a full dynamic lifestyle to their residents. When we have life care planning meetings with our clients, the biggest thing that people come to us and are like, well, that's not what I expected. As a result of the meeting being very much centered on lifestyle. What are you able to do for yourself? What kind of care do you need? Maybe no care at all, and you're doing wonderful, and we're coming at it from a proactive perspective. But we recently did kind of a shadow day with a few law firms across the state of Florida, with obviously the permission of the prospective clients. And we had some of them Zoom in, and we had some of them actually in the meeting. And they were elder law attorneys from around the state. But life care planning is kind of not really at the center of elder law. It's something that's starting to come in and be more used and understood. But the interesting perspective that the other attorneys looking in on that life care planning meeting was, and it's the same thing that, like I said, we hear from our clients, is how much of the meeting or the consultation was focused on lifestyle and goals and interests and healthcare, and providing support for the families, making sure that spouses can be spouses, right? We just had somebody in here the other day. They were married for like 66 years. And I was like, that is amazing. And, the issue was in that circumstance that husband was the 100% caregiver for wife. And so our perspective during that meeting was, how do we support you guys? How do we support your family? How do we support your wife and therefore support you in getting you back to being husband? Or how, we get children back in the role of children and really having people enjoy their lives and their relationships and their families without them having to be caregivers. When we're looking at your experiences and intersections of mutual meeting points like the village, I think that's what it comes down to. Looking at the holistic picture, not planning for a crisis, trying to get there ahead of that. Uniquely in life care planning, a lot of those questions and a lot of that support comes in exploring what that family needs or what that caregiver needs. Because if we can bring support around those caregivers, then everybody flourishes. So I think that's something that's unique. And I think that's probably why you and Shannon hit it off at the advisory board meeting at the village, because that's their goal too. And it seems like throughout the course of your career and your lifetime, you've been offering support to so many people during difficult seasons of life. Thank you so much, Sherry, for being with us today and sharing your wealth of experience and knowledge, and for you being such a remarkable guest on my first hosting of our podcast. You made it so easy and you're so fun. And it was just like having coffee with an old friend.
Jenna, thank you for having me. I have had so much fun.
Me too. More fun than I ever thought. For our viewers who want maybe to learn a little bit more about you, where can we direct them to?
Well, I work all the time. So the Santa Fe College Foundation, sfcollege.edu/foundation. And I'd love to talk to anyone who wants to be talked to, give them a tour of our campuses and share a little bit more about the impact that we're making on our students and our community.
We will provide all of those details at the bottom of our podcast. Thank you once again for sharing your time with us and for just having a fun conversation.
It was my pleasure, my honor.
If this episode made you think of someone who might benefit from hearing it, we encourage you to share it. These conversations matter. And to stay connected with future episodes of Thriving to the Finish Line, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for spending time with us.